Patricia will transition into a reduced-scope advisory capacity, the email read. She'll retain desk space but will no longer lead client engagements. It wasn't even addressed to me, just forwarded by mistake from Greg to the HR thread. I stared at my screen, my mug of peppermint tea trembling in my hand. The minty steam curled up like it was trying to spell out a warning. They hadn't said a word. No meeting, no conversation. Just this quiet execution in Times New Roman, signed off with, "Appreciate your discretion." I could hear the office printer clattering 2 desks down, the rhythm of it so ordinary it hurt. Outside my glass cubicle, Mason from marketing was laughing with Jessie, probably about those Halloween cupcakes. I clicked open the folder marked Snowfall Contingency. It wasn't about snow. It was a name I gave last winter, the week after Greg forgot to invite me to the leadership retreat. I'd documented it all. Every client shifted quietly to someone younger. Every time he called me Pat in meetings like I was someone's aunt. I scrolled to the bottom. There it was, PDF, time-stamped, acknowledged by HR. I'd sent it to Michelle Ramirez, Director of People and Culture, almost exactly a year ago. I opened Outlook and typed, "Hi, Michelle. It appears I've been looped into a thread not intended for me. See attached." Attached both files. Then I watched the Microsoft tracking ping, opened by M. Ramirez. Device, desktop. Location, internal IP. Status, reading. The air felt thinner, like someone had opened a window in January. Then my office phone rang. Not HR, not Greg. It was Anna, from legal. "Patricia," she said, voice cool and deliberate, "please don't forward or delete anything. We're coming to you, right now." I stood up slowly, my knees stiff from the morning chill, and glanced at the photo frame on my desk. Me and Carla on her graduation day. Me holding the daisy pin she gave me, the one I still wear on my coat. The call ended. The hallway was too quiet. Then came the sound of 3 pairs of heels, coming fast. The smaller conference room smelled like old coffee and something faintly metallic. I sat down, still wearing my coat, the daisy pin bright against the dark wool. Michelle closed the door. Anna sat across from me, arms folded. The third one, a man in his 40s with careful eyes, extended his hand. "Edwin Bryce, compliance." "External?" I asked. He nodded once. "Contracted by the board." That got my full attention. He opened a slim black folder, flipped past several pages, and finally landed on one I recognized. My Snowfall Contingency file. "You filed this in December last year?" he asked, without lifting his eyes. "Yes." "Were you ever contacted for follow-up?" "No." Anna and Michelle exchanged a glance. Edwin continued. "This incident with the demotion email, do you believe it was intentional or accidental?" I leaned back, letting the silence speak first. "Greg doesn't make digital accidents. He's old school, voice memos and Post-its." He jotted something. "Did he ever discuss potential succession candidates with you?" I hesitated. "In June, he had lunch with Devin Trask from New York. Marketing VP? Mentioned she had fresh eyes. Then the client portfolio shuffle started." Michelle winced. Edwin tapped his pen against the folder. "Were you invited to that June leadership offsite?" "No, I only found out when Mason posted photos on LinkedIn." Another scribble. A pause. Then Michelle's phone vibrated. She looked, and I watched the color drain from her face. "They're deleting calendar records," she whispered. "Greg's team just started scrubbing the drive." My breath caught. I looked at Edwin. He didn't move, but his eyes flared sharp, like glass catching firelight. "Lock his access now," he said quietly to Anna, "and secure Patricia's workstation." He turned to me. "We're going to need you to remember everything about that lunch." I reached for the daisy pin on my lapel, fingers steady now. I remember it all. But I hadn't told them the most important part yet. What Devin had slipped me when Greg wasn't looking. I had tucked it into my purse without reading it, just to avoid attention. One of those small cloth napkins with a wine ring and careful writing in blue ink. "Check your email history. Not everyone's deleting you." That's what it said. At the time, I thought Devin meant it as comfort. Maybe a whispered alliance, but the line itched at me, buried itself in a drawer in my mind until today. I looked up at Edwin. That napkin was from Devon. June 9th, Celia's Cafe. Greg was too busy charming the wine rep to notice. Edwin's pen stopped. I continued. Yesterday I finally checked. There are emails between Greg and Devon. Not addressed to me, but I'm copied on a few. Blind copy. And they CC'd someone named R. Malden. Michelle looked confused, but Edwin's jaw clenched. That's not just anyone, he said. Randall Malden is a transition specialist, a cleaner. Corporations bring him in to help restructure without noise. Usually he stays hidden. My stomach nodded. Then why leave me copied? Edwin's brow furrowed. Someone wanted a trail. We were silent for a moment. I reached into my coat pocket and placed the folded napkin on the table. Blue ink. Still smells like Pinot Noir, I said. Michelle picked it up gently, as if it might crumble. Her hands were trembling. Then Anna's phone chimed. She glanced, went still, and turned the screen toward Edwin. Security alert. Access attempt on HR archive. User, L. Newman. Device, Greg's assistant's terminal. She's trying to open my file, I whispered. Edwin stood up so fast his chair screeched. Print everything, he said to Michelle. And Patricia, send me every email that included R. Malden, right now. I nodded, already unlocking my phone, but as I pulled up my inbox, a new email blinked into view. From Devon Trask. Subject, running out of time. Message, check under the daisy. The pin, the daisy pin on my coat. I unhooked it, turned it over, and my breath caught. There was something hidden inside. The clasp felt heavier than usual. I'd worn that daisy pin every winter since Carla gave it to me. Never noticed the tiny seam beneath the petals. Edwin handed me a microfiber cloth. Let me. With careful fingers, he pried it open. A thin sliver of metal shifted, a micro SD card, no larger than my fingernail. He inserted it into a secure port on his encrypted laptop. The screen blinked, then loaded folders labeled in Devon's tidy handwriting. One read, GRM Audio. He clicked. Greg's voice, unmistakable and smug, filled the room. Randall, I'm not keeping legacy personnel past Q3. That includes Patricia. The board wants lean teams, no pension drags. Randall's reply, you want quiet exits. I can build a 90-day drawdown plan with coaching cover. Another clip. Greg again, chuckling. Patricia won't make a fuss. She's too proud to cause a scene. The room went silent. Even the air felt different, charged with something jagged. Michelle's hand hovered near her mouth. Anna swore softly under her breath. I said nothing. I just sat straighter. Edwin glanced at me, then closed the laptop. This is actionable, but how did Devon get these? I thought back. She interned in IT before she went east. She'd know where the skeletons were. Another ping. Michelle turned to her screen. Greg just badged in. He's heading up. Edwin stood. We're going to greet him. I rose too, smoothing my coat. The daisy pin felt colder now, clipped back into place. Michelle looked nervous. You sure? Edwin met my eyes. She's the one they tried to erase. She deserves to be in the room. I followed him out, footsteps echoing down the hall. As the elevator dinged, I caught my reflection in the glass, still standing, still sharp. And finally, not alone. Greg stepped into the room like he was late to lunch, not a reckoning. What's this about? He asked with a polished smirk, the kind he used to disarm quarterly review complaints. Edwin didn't flinch. He walked to the center of the table, laid the micro SD card down like a calling card, and met Greg's eyes. Patricia's demotion email was sent in error, Greg started, voice syrupy. Just some internal reorg notes. Edwin lifted one brow. You mean the part where you said she'd retain desk space but no longer lead? Or the audio where you called her a pension drag? Greg blinked. Michelle folded her hands but didn't speak. She didn't need to. Edwin stepped closer, tone quiet but slicing. We've opened an internal compliance investigation under board directive. Charges under review include age discrimination, unauthorized digital suppression, and hostile restructuring. Greg let out a scoffing laugh. This is organizational housekeeping, realignment. You're blowing this up over... Patricia won't make a fuss. She's too proud to cause a scene, I said, voice level. His mouth shut like a slammed file drawer. For a moment, the only sound was the subtle hum of the overhead lights. Greg's hand moved toward his phone. Edwin's arm shot out, blocking him. "No devices," Edwin said. "Per protocol, we're containing potential leaks." Greg's face flushed dark red. "This is ridiculous. You're letting a legacy employee make baseless claims." Anna burst in then, breath tight, holding out her phone. "Legal just got pinged. Cease request. From Malden's firm." Michelle's chair creaked as she stood. "So they know we have the audio." Greg turned away, but not fast enough. I saw it in his face. Fear, just a flicker. But enough, because now it wasn't just me holding the truth. It was in their hands, too, and there was no erasing that. Edwin didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Gregory Parks, you are being placed on administrative leave pending full investigation. You are not to contact staff, access internal systems, or remove any company property." Greg laughed again, shorter this time, like the air had gone out of him. "This is a witch hunt." "Funny," Edwin said flatly. "Witches didn't build case files." Greg didn't reply, just stalked past us, shoulders tight. The elevator swallowed him whole. The door shut. Michelle sank into a chair. "I read your file," she said quietly. I turned. "The snowfall?" She nodded. "The day you sent it. I opened it. I flagged it for review. But the VP told me to stand down, said it was a sensitive matter." Her hands gripped the edge of the table. "I saved a copy, on a personal USB, not out of defiance, out of guilt." I studied her. The woman I'd once dismissed as ornamental HR. She looked older now, stripped of polish, human. "Do you still have it?" She nodded and pulled a tiny silver drive from her bag. We plugged it in. The file loaded, a mirrored version of what I'd submitted. But now we could see the metadata, the timestamps, the revisions. Michelle's eyes widened. "Look!" Each paragraph, each bullet point I'd added, had a ghost tag. Initials. DT, Devin Trask. She hadn't just handed me a napkin. She'd built a scaffold around my words, strengthened them. And then Michelle gasped. "There's another email." She turned her screen to me. "Devin, sent 4:32 p.m., June 9th. Subject line, 'Read this if they move against you.'" It had been buried, redirected to other, never opened. My hand hovered over the trackpad. I clicked it. The screen shifted, and Devin's voice came through, clear, calm, and prepared. "If you're hearing this, they've pulled the trigger, and you need to know who else is involved." Devin's voice filled the speakers, steady and measured. "If you're hearing this, they've pulled the trigger, and you need to know who else is involved." She didn't hesitate. "Greg is just the front. Sandra Cho in finance, David Levin in strategy. They signed off on what they called the soft sunset plan. On paper, it's framed as mentorship rotation. In reality, it's age-targeted redundancy." Michelle's pen froze halfway through a word. "They've run similar patterns before," Devin continued. "Push seasoned staff into lateral advisory roles, strip their influence, then eliminate the position entirely Q4. Greg was tasked with trialing it in client services. Patricia, you were the test case." The blood drained from my face. "Look for a folder in the archive server labeled SS2SO23 Audit. It's hidden behind a legacy credential ID. The only one that can open it is S. Crawford." Michelle turned to me, puzzled. I didn't answer right away. My hands were gripping the chair. S. Crawford, Stephen Crawford, my husband. Gone 10 years now. He used to consult for the company in IT transitions. I'd never thought to delete his credentials. He always said, "Never shut the door you entered through." Michelle was already typing. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. The login window popped up. She entered the ID. The screen hesitated. Then, access granted. My throat tightened. Michelle looked up. "He left it for you, didn't he?" I nodded slowly, tears stinging my eyes. He always said this place played the long game. She leaned in. Then let's follow the breadcrumbs. And with one click, the hidden archive folder opened. What we found next would tie Sandra and David to something much bigger and far dirtier than we'd imagined. The folder bloomed open on screen. Rows of files, neatly labeled in Stephen's meticulous naming style. Exec Strategy Q3, Soft Sunset Draft 2, Legal Review Q2. Michelle clicked the legal one first. Inside, a memo from the former compliance officer, Louis Girard. Dated April 14th. Subject line, Soft Sunset, Risk Exposure. His tone was crisp. This plan, as currently outlined, poses significant exposure under EEOC regulations. Age-linked restructuring, even veiled in mentorship programs, can be construed as discriminatory under Section 623. Michelle looked at me. They knew. And ignored it, I said, voice flat. Louis left suddenly last July, right? She asked. I nodded. Said it was burnout. I sent him a sympathy card. Michelle clicked into the next subfolder. One caught my eye. Crawford Notes. I reached over and opened it. There was an audio file, timestamped 5 years ago. Stephen's voice, calm and gravelly, filled the speakers. April 2nd. Met with Greg Parks about a potential phased retirement plan. He called it harmless sunset incentives, pitched as optional, but the language, too slippery, no safeguards. A pause. I advised against it. Too open to abuse. Told him in writing. Another pause. If this gets used the wrong way, my wife will know what to do. The room was silent. I pressed my hand against my chest. He'd left it for me. He saw it coming. And now, so did I. Michelle's voice was quiet. He was the first whistle. I whispered, and now we're the last echo. But something told me we weren't the only ones listening, because the office lights just flickered, and the folder window started closing on its own. One by one, the files began to vanish. Exec Strategy Q3, gone. Soft Sunset Draft 2, blink. Even Stephen's Crawford Notes flickered once and disappeared. Michelle gasped. They're wiping it. Live! She yanked the USB, hands flying to disconnect the Wi-Fi. The screen froze mid-delete. Too late, she whispered. Some are already gone. I stared at the monitor, stomach churning. They're in the system. Edwin burst through the door. Internal flagged a breach. Remote access hit the archive folder. VPN trace leads to an IP registered to Randall Malden's consulting group. Michelle's voice trembled. They're destroying the evidence. I grabbed her arm. Did we save anything? Her eyes met mine. I backed up a full mirror 2 hours ago, before Greg's email even hit you. It's in my office safe, offline. My knees almost gave out from relief. Edwin took a breath. That might be the only copy left. He opened his phone, scanned a new message, then held it up. Sandra Cho just scheduled an emergency board call. 1 hour, no agenda listed, no invite for legal or compliance. Michelle frowned. They're going to spin this before the facts surface. I stood up and buttoned my coat. Then we'd better be in that call. But before we moved, Michelle's screen lit up with a system-wide alert. Access restricted, non-executive credentials temporarily suspended. She tried her badge login, denied, then mine, also denied. They locked you out, she said. Every non-executive account. Edwin's jaw clenched. That means they're panicking. I looked down at my coat sleeve. The daisy pin caught the fluorescent light. They should be, because I wasn't going anywhere. Not this time. Michelle's office safe clicked open with a sound that felt like breath returning. Inside, a slim silver drive, clean and cold, nestled beneath a stack of harmless HR files. She handed it to Edwin. Full mirror of the snowfall folder and everything Devin tagged. Audio, memos, legal notes, even that voice file from Stephen. He nodded and plugged it into his encrypted laptop, fingers flying across the keys. We need a board-ready summary, he said. Tight, chronology, motive, evidence chain. I stepped forward. Include the audio clip where Greg says I won't make a fuss, and the file deletions, time-stamped. Michelle looked up. And Stephen's metadata. That shows he tried to warn them years ago. I pulled a yellow legal pad from Michelle's drawer and started writing something by hand. "What's that?" Edwin asked. "Addendum," I said. 1 page. Call it What They Tried to Erase. I want my voice in this, not just my evidence. By the time we finished, the room felt different. Ready. Edwin's secure phone buzzed. He scanned the message, then looked up. "Board says compliance may present. 1 representative only. 15 minutes. I stood. "I'll go." Edwin blinked. "Patricia, you don't have to." "I do." My voice was calm, but my hands weren't. I reached for my coat anyway. Then Michelle frowned. "Wait," she said, turning to her monitor. My badge ID, locked out minutes ago, was now glowing green. "Patricia," she whispered, "your access just came back online." I stared at the screen, then slowly fastened the daisy pin. "They're trying to bait me." I smiled coldly. Let's not disappoint them. The executive boardroom was colder than I remembered. Polished walnut table, 12 chairs, 11 filled. I walked in alone, coat buttoned, drive in one hand, single page in the other. Sandra Cho didn't stand. "Ms. Crawford, you have 15 minutes. I nodded once and set the drive in the center of the table. "No slides," I said. "Just sound." They blinked. I clicked play. Stephen's voice filled the silence. 5 years old, but steady. "If this gets used the wrong way, my wife will know what to do." His message laid out everything. Greg's early pitch, the veiled language, the potential for abuse. The words landed heavy. Then I handed out the printouts. Devin's email, the soft sunset draft, Greg's quotes, the legal memo they ignored. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I finished with the addendum. "My name is Patricia Crawford. You tried to delete me from your future. But I'm part of your history, and I'm not done writing." The room stayed quiet. No defense, no smirks. Then, a chime. One of the directors checked his phone. He swallowed hard, then looked up. "Randall Malden," he said softly. "He just lawyered up." I folded my page, slid it back into my coat. "Then you know what that means." Sandra sat back, her jaw tense. I turned to leave. Behind me, no one said a word. But for the first time since this started, I knew who was listening and who was afraid. When I got back, the conference room door was shut. Inside, Michelle and Edwin stood amid stacks of printed documents, 2 laptops, open, USB cables snaking across the table. Michelle looked up. "Bored?" "They listened," I said. "Malden's lawyer move spooked them." Edwin nodded. "They froze all personnel changes. Greg's badge is revoked. Sandra's status is under review." Michelle added, "Malden's firm has gone dark. Site offline. Main number disconnected. No response to subpoenas." I leaned against the table, the weight of the last hour settling into my bones. "They said nothing," I told them, "but they heard everything." Michelle hesitated. "There's something else." She pulled out a sealed envelope, yellowed, handwritten, addressed to me. "Louis Girard left this," she said. "Dated 2 months ago, found in an internal review box. It never went to the board." The envelope was marked, "To be opened if they come for you." My fingers trembled as I tore it open. Inside, a single line, Louis's neat print. "Look in the old printer tray." Stephen knew. I stared at the words, stunned. "The printer?" Michelle asked. "There's only one place it could mean," I whispered. "Stephen's old office. He had a desk printer we never threw out." Michelle was already grabbing her keys. Edwin looked at me. "Do you think it's still there?" "I don't know," I said, but I could feel it. Whatever Stephen left, it was waiting, and it wasn't paper. The storage level smelled like old toner and carpet glue. We moved past broken chairs, cracked filing cabinets, yellowing HR posters from 10 years ago, Then, behind a dusty tower of Dell monitors, I saw it. Stephen's printer, still plugged in. My breath caught. I knelt down and opened the paper tray. There, nestled in the dust, was a black envelope. Thick paper. My husband's handwriting across the front. Q folder. I stared for a long moment before I picked it up. Inside, one USB drive and a note. Do not open at work. Home only. Trust no one. S. Michelle and Edwin were silent. We didn't speak until we were back in the elevator. That night, I took it home. My hands trembled as I slid the drive into my laptop, the glow of the screen the only light in the room. One file, encrypted, titled QA Full MP4. I entered Stephen's old decryption phrase. The screen flashed, then loaded. Surveillance footage. Grainy. Timestamps running along the bottom. A private dinner. White tablecloth. 3 people seated. Greg, Sandra, Randall Malden. No menus, just wine. Quiet laughter. Then the audio clicked in. Sandra's voice. What if HR pushes back? Randall. They won't. The plan's written as mentorship. We just need clean exits. Greg leaned back, smirking. You sure Patricia won't fight? A pause. Then Greg chuckled. She's already halfway out. I leaned closer to the screen, heart pounding. They thought I was done. They were wrong. We met under the company's side canopy. Concrete, windshielded, no cameras. I handed Edwin the USB. No uploads, I said. This stays analog. He nodded. Legal review, hard copy only. No cloud, no SharePoint. By noon, 3 board members had reached out. 2 asked for confirmation of names. The third, Eleanor Park, wanted to meet in person. We chose neutral ground. An old coffee shop 2 blocks from HQ. No Wi-Fi, no loyalty cards, just coffee and linoleum floors. She was already there, in a gray coat with pearl buttons, hair pinned back like it always was on finance days. Patricia, she said softly, sit. I told her everything, from the snowfall file to the daisy pin, from Stephen's voice to Malden's deletion attempt. She didn't interrupt, just watched me, hands folded around a porcelain cup. Finally, she spoke. 20 years ago, I was replaced by someone with less experience and more optics. They said I'd be better used mentoring. I've never forgotten. I swallowed. Then you understand. She nodded. I do. And I can tell you, Greg and Sandra will not be shielded. Not this time. She reached into her bag and handed me a card. No logo, just a P.O. box and a number. Keep your copy of the footage off-site, somewhere safe. Don't trust systems. I took it. We parted at the corner. As I walked to my car, I felt the air shift. A figure across the parking lot, dark coat, shoulder-length hair, standing near a black SUV. It was Devon. She looked at me for 3 seconds, then turned and vanished behind the tinted glass, like she was never there. But I knew she was. She always was. I slipped the USB into a fireproof lockbox behind 3 years of tax folders and 1 outdated passport. It didn't feel like hiding. It felt like anchoring. That night, while slicing carrots for soup, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Just 1 line. Q footage isn't the only one. Check your voicemail. My stomach tightened. I set the knife down and walked to the landline. There it was. 1 new message. I pressed play. Devon's voice came through lower than before, measured. They've used this pattern before, not just at your company. Look into Crescent Biosystems 2018. Same quiet shuffle, same consultant, Malden, same sunset framing. She paused. I've attached the file. It's time-stamped, metadata intact. Make it loud if they come for me. I opened my email. There it was. Subject: You'll know what to do. The dossier inside was chilling. Case studies. Pension exits timed within weeks of restructuring. Disappearing internal records. External firms listed under vague contract names. All led back to Malden's shell companies. Names, numbers, HR flags buried under wellness review tags. I forwarded the file to Edwin. And to Eleanor. Then hit send. That's when the router lights blinked. blue to red. Connection dropped. Not a glitch, a targeting. They weren't just cleaning the company anymore. They were reaching inside my home. I stood in the hallway, phone still warm in my hand, watching the router's lights blink blank. The storm wasn't over. It had just moved closer. Edwin texted back fast. "Stay offline. Do not reconnect. I'm coming to you." 20 minutes later, he pulled into the driveway, headlights off. Inside, he moved fast. "Give me your phone." I handed it over. He dropped it into a black Faraday pouch, zipped it tight. They're piggybacking diagnostics, probably triggered when you open Devon's attachment. He scanned the router. Firmware breach. Silent overwrite. Clever. I watched as he pulled a gray hotspot device from his bag, then a spare laptop. No company branding, no tracking. "This is what Devon used," he said. "Air-gapped, flash-only access. She learned from people who had everything to lose." We sat down and opened the Crescent Bio dossier again. Scrolling past pension charts and job codes, a name leapt out. Louis Gerard. I pointed. "That's our Louis." Edwin frowned. "He was part of Crescent Bio's internal audit team?" "That's why he left, not burnout. He saw it repeat here." Pieces clicked into place. Devon hadn't worked alone. She and Louis had been building a thread, case by case, company by company. "Who else would have known?" I asked aloud. Edwin paused. "There's one person who could verify this, someone Devon trusted completely." I looked at him. "I already know." His brow lifted. "Who?" "Her mother." He blinked. "Devon's mother?" "She called me 2 weeks ago, said she'd lost touch with Devon. She left a message, only one line." "What?" I looked down. She said, "My daughter left you a map." And I realized the daisy pin, the napkin, the audio. It wasn't just evidence. It was a trail, and I was supposed to follow it to the end. The retirement complex sat on a quiet slope outside Baltimore. Red brick, trimmed hedges, the kind of place where time moved like molasses. Lorraine Trask opened the door before I knocked. She wore a cardigan with tiny shell buttons, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I wondered when you'd come," she said. She made tea without asking, then motioned to the sofa. I told her everything. The daisy pin, the audio, Crescent Bio, the breach. She listened without blinking. When I finished, she reached into a lacquered box on a nearby shelf and pulled out something folded, worn at the creases. A paper map, old, annotated. On the back, Devon's handwriting. A list of locations, dated, initials beside each, LGSC RJ whistleblowers. At the bottom, in red ink. The last one opens it all, KH. I looked up. "Kay Hensley?" Lorraine nodded. "Devon's mentor. Went dark in 2020 after testifying against a data mining firm tied to Malden. No one's seen her since." She pointed to the final dot, coordinates, a rural marker near Philadelphia. "If Devon's off-grid," Lorraine said softly, "she'd go to Kay." I folded the map, then stood. "That's where I'll go next." Lorraine didn't stop me, but as I stepped into the hallway, she called after me. "Patricia?" I turned. "She trusted you with the map. Don't lose your way." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because I finally understood. This wasn't just about my job. It was about every woman who'd been quietly erased. And I wasn't walking away. The drive took 3 hours, most of it through back roads and broken GPS signals. The coordinates led to a cottage behind what used to be greenhouses. Glass panes shattered, ivy choking their frames. I parked and walked to the door. It opened before I knocked. Kay Hensley stood there. Gray braid, leather jacket, eyes like an old hawk. "You're the one Devon marked in red," she said. She led me inside. Windows taped, shelves packed with manila folders, handwritten tabs. No tech in sight. I told her everything. Stephen's file, The daisy pin, the footage, Devon's dossier, the map. Kay didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she walked to a locked cabinet, turned a key, and pulled out a fat envelope. Red line, Malden Matrix, it read. She spread the pages on the table. Dozens of companies. Same pattern every time. Consultant enters, leadership shift, over 50 layoffs begin, records scrubbed, whistleblowers removed, audits sealed. I felt the air drain from my lungs. Why hasn't this gone public? Kay looked up, her voice flat. Because every last firm sits under sealed arbitration. Malden buries it with binding NDAs and disappearing clauses. She handed me a sealed flash drive. This breaks the circle. Devon couldn't... Her window closed. I took it, heavy for its size. Then, outside, the soft click of a motion light. We both froze. Kay stepped to the side window and peeked. Her jaw tightened. "Don't park close next time," she said. Someone was watching, and they were already here. Kay didn't flinch. She flicked off the kitchen light and pulled open a floor hatch I hadn't noticed. "Storage crawl," she whispered. "Stay low." We dropped into the narrow space, ducking under a beam as the door above creaked closed. Footsteps crunched outside, 2 of them. Civilian clothes, but the rhythm was wrong. Too crisp, too clean. "Malden contracts ex-military," Kay murmured. "They look like lawn guys. They're not." The doorknob rattled. Once, twice. I held my breath. Then Kay's burner phone buzzed. Just once. No ring, no text. A signal. "Backup's 5 out," she said. I nodded, heart hammering. Upstairs, we heard one of the men say, "No movement. Clear perimeter?" "Clear." Then came silence. We waited. 5 minutes later, tires crunched over. Gravel. A quick tap, tap of a horn. Kay yanked the hatch. "Go!" We ran side by side through the narrow passage and out the side hatch, where a battered gray sedan waited. Inside, a man with a weathered face, military cut, eyes like flint rock. "Row," he said. "Devon said if this day came, I'd owe her." Kay shoved me in. "Drive." As we peeled off, I looked back. One of the men was in the road, just standing there, watching. In his hand, held like a relic, was the red line Malden Matrix envelope, flapping in the wind, empty. They were faster than we thought, but not fast enough to catch what we'd already moved. Not yet. The safe house sat at the edge of a burned-out logging road. Old ranger station, steel shutters, propane heat, backup generator humming like a pulse. Inside, Roe handed me instant coffee and locked every door twice. Kay spread out the rest of Devon's files, a full index. "Devon mapped each compromised firm," she said. "This column's for the shell names. Malden used a new one every year. This year, it's Ventoro Strategies." Roe added, "And they've got a legal sinkhole in Nevada. All arbitration records rerouted there. It's where whistleblowers go to disappear." I scanned the papers. Then I saw it. A line item. My company. Audit transfer approved Q2. Final destination, Ventoro HQ, Reno, NV. My hands curled into fists. "They're laundering it. Every doc, every memo, before the board can act." Kay swore under her breath. I texted Edwin from the burner. 2 words. "It's moving." His reply came instantly. "Board hearing locked. 48 hours. 48 hours. I looked at the printout again. The system names, the legacy access protocols. "Is there any way to stop the transfer?" I asked. Kay's eyes narrowed. "Only if you crash the archive from the inside." My throat tightened. Roe looked at me sideways. "That means walking back into the lion's mouth." I nodded slowly. "If they're burying truth in Nevada..." I looked up. "Then I'm digging it out in person." Time was running out. But I wasn't done yet. Not by half. The badge said visitor, but the guard barely looked up. Eleanor had arranged it. Early entry. No questions. I walked in through the maintenance level. past crates, into the underbelly of HQ, where everything was quiet and unfinished. Edwin met me by the old storage office. It had been converted overnight. Whiteboards, paper files, 2 laptops, one clean, one dirty. He pointed to the terminal. Legacy archive, still wired. They never moved it to cloud replication. I handed him Kay's flash. He plugged it in and nodded. We've got an open vein, just long enough. I began the pull. Devon's map, the redline files, the whistleblower index. Then Edwin turned his screen. Problem. He showed me the transfer log. The audit isn't just being sent. It's set to auto-execute a deletion protocol. 14 hours from now, the local drive wipes. I stared. They're laundering and shredding. Unless, Edwin said, we give them something they can't digest. I smiled slowly. We don't block it. We poison it. We built a mirrored folder. Same name, same tag paths. But inside, surveillance footage. Devon's audio. Metadata showing forgery. Stephen's voice. I renamed the final payload qfinalact.mp4. At 3:13 p.m., I clicked execute. The system pinged green, file uploaded, transfer confirmed. I turned to Edwin. If Malden opens that archive... He grinned, sharp and tired. He's going to choke. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something like light. Not safety, but vengeance, sharp and clean. The call came just after midnight. Sandra Cho. Her number lit my phone like a bruise. I answered. Her voice was cold silk. Whatever you think you've done, Patricia, it's already too late. I said nothing. I've got a version of Devon's files, ones that show you as an early collaborator, a mentor, someone who helped pitch Soft Sunset back in 2020. Still, I stayed silent. It'll look like you spun this entire story to protect yourself. Fake martyrdom. Classic deflection. I waited, then spoke. You shouldn't bluff with my husband's name in your mouth. A beat, then a click. The line went dead. I didn't sleep. By sunrise, I was behind the courthouse garden wall, meeting Eleanor where cameras couldn't reach. She was in gray again. Always gray. They're stalling, she said. But the Q footage cracked something open. The board's off balance. She handed me a sealed envelope. Unofficial vote tally. I opened it. 5 yes votes. 7 were needed. Who's still uncommitted? She ticked them off. Laramie, Brenner, Chin. 2 of those 3 get us home. I nodded. She looked at me long. If Sandra's bluffing, we win. If she's not... I folded the envelope, tucked it into my coat. Then she's even more desperate than we thought. The garden was quiet, the air dry and cold. Eleanor turned to leave, but before she disappeared through the side gate, she paused. Make sure you walk in with your voice intact, Patricia. And I knew exactly what she meant. The hearing was in 12 hours, and I still had cards to play. Devon's face flickered on my screen just after dawn. The video was short. 2 minutes, 31 seconds. If you're watching this, she said, they've found a way to twist the truth, but the pattern never lies. She laid it bare. 5 companies, 5 identical playbooks, each dismantled through HR recommendations crafted by shell consultants. Each time, Malden. Each time, sealed arbitration, erased audits, whistleblowers cut off at the knees. She ended with a line I'd heard her say once, years ago. They don't fear noise. They fear patterns. Don't let them erase the thread. I attached the video. Subject line, before you vote, hear her. Then I hit send. To every board member. No salutation, no signature, just the footage. At the courthouse, the board assembled in the south chamber. Sandra and Greg sat opposite me, stiff, blank-faced. Eleanor leaned in. 2 votes still wobbling. Then, Laramie stood. I call for a pre-vote disclosure, he said. Full evidence log. Anything withheld from legal or compliance. Greg jerked slightly. Sandra's lips drew tight. A ripple of whispers crossed the room. That's when I felt it. The turn. The board hadn't just heard Devon. They'd seen it. The fear. The pattern. The timing. I met Eleanor's eyes. She smiled, thin and sharp. "That was your 7th vote," she whispered. "Now let's see them squirm." I folded my hands and waited. Because the reckoning had begun. Greg slid the envelope across the table like it weighed nothing. Inside, a signed resignation letter, no date, and a note. "Trade this for silence." I looked up. He didn't blink. "You leak nothing," he said softly. "I disappear. You win. Everyone moves on." I tore the letter in half. "You don't get to script my ending." Sandra scoffed but said nothing. She already knew. The board filed back in. Eleanor stood, crisp paper in hand. "Motion to terminate the contracts of Gregory Yarrow and Sandra Cho, effective immediately." She scanned the room. 9 votes, 1 by 1. Final tally, 7 in favor, 2 opposed. The gavel struck once. Sandra stood too fast, chair scraping the floor. "Enjoy your little victory," she hissed. "The system survives." Then she was gone. Greg followed, shoulders tight. I didn't smile, but I breathed. Outside, the wind felt new. Roe leaned against the iron fence, waiting. He nodded. Message came through. He handed me a manila envelope. I opened it. Inside, sealed settlement records from 3 other firms, names redacted, but dates matched Devon's red line. "Leaked an hour ago," Roe said. "No sender, just coordinates." I looked up. "This isn't over." He raised an eyebrow. "It never is." I slipped the envelope into my coat. Then my phone buzzed. A single text. Devon spotted. Albany. My pulse skipped. Not a shadow, not a ghost. Devon. Alive. "Now," I whispered. "We go wider." Because the pattern hadn't ended. It had just been exposed. The air in Albany was brittle. Roe worked his contacts. Kay dusted off a flip phone Devon once used, encrypted, battery wrapped in foil. I pored over Devon's old message chain, back when she still trusted the system. One caught my eye. "When the oak splits, sit on the 3rd bench." Capitol Oaks, a park near the government quarter. At dawn, I walked the loop path, hands deep in my coat. 3rd bench, splintered rail. I crouched, ran my fingers beneath. There, taped flat against the wood, was a flash drive. I pocketed it just as a groundskeeper approached. He met my eyes. "She said you'd come." He didn't stay, just nodded and moved on. Back at the safe house, Kay and I plugged in the drive. It buzzed to life. A single folder. Live Track Devon. Inside, encrypted location bursts. Devon's trail, real-time pings. The last one? 36 hours ago. Latitude, timestamp, signal strength. Roe leaned over my shoulder. "Storage facility, by the river, name's Umbra Lock." Kay grabbed her coat. "If she's alive," I whispered, "she's running out of places to hide." Kay nodded, eyes hard. "Then we find her before they do." Because the pattern wasn't just lines on a screen anymore, it was a pulse, still beating. Umbra Lock sat by the river like a forgotten tooth. Half the units rusted, fencing buckled where winter floods had pushed through. We moved quiet. Unit 117. Roe picked the lock in seconds. Inside, a cot, a solar lamp, stacked water jugs, and a corkboard. Files pinned, string strung. Devon's handwriting everywhere. But no Devon. Just a single sheet. Center tacked. I had to move. If they find this place, burn it. My fingers shook. Kay looked at me. If we leave it, they'll trace it. I reached into my coat, pulled the lighter. The first flame caught the corner of a printout. Red line overlays, folded memos. It climbed fast. We closed the door and walked away as smoke curled from the vents. Back at the safe house, I emptied my coat pocket. A second flash drive, hidden beneath Devon's mattress, taped in fabric. We plugged it in. Her voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, I had less time than I thought. They move faster now. Go public, Patricia. Full release. Cue final act. Kay looked at me. I nodded. All of it. Tonight. She stood. I'll prep the drop sites. Roe checked the car again. Outside, across the road, a black sedan pulled up. Same one from Kay's cottage. Engine idling. Lights off. He called back to us. We've got eyes. Time was up. The world was about to see everything, but only if we moved first. At midnight, we split the signal. Roe rerouted through firewalled nodes across 4 states. Kay uploaded in fragments, audio, files, Devon's footage. At 2:17 a.m., Cue Final Act went live. Whistleblower forums, regulator tips, encrypted media inboxes. By 3 o'clock, the first pickup came. A journalist named Morales posted the daisy pin photo, then Stephen's voice, then the vote tally. By sunrise, 3 outlets ran exposés in sync. Calls flooded the company. The board issued a statement by 8 a.m. Eleanor texted, "They're unraveling." But the sedan stayed outside. All morning. At noon, I walked to the curb. The door opened. Devon stepped out, same coat, same boots. Hair shorter now, a scar like sun-split glass across one cheek. "You kept the thread," she said. I reached forward, pulled her into a hug. Her breath shook. Then she whispered, "There's more." She opened her bag. Inside, a flash drive, silver with red tape, label, KH. Kay froze. Devon nodded. "What you leaked," she said, voice like smoke, "was just 1 chapter." She handed me the drive. "This next one?" She smiled, tired but whole. "It's everything they didn't want us to find." The final thread wasn't just truth, it was revolution, and it was in our hands.